Welcome back, friends, to Tiny Town Trains TV. T4 here. It's time for this week's installment of My Favorite Railroads. This is where I talk about one of the railroads that will have a spot on the 9-level high layout build. You see, in addition to a featured railroad, one of the things that can make a layout more interesting is having your railroad interact with other railroads. This week, we're going to look at the standard railroad of the world, the Pennsylvania. Now, the Pennsylvania Railroad was officially established in 1846 with the consolidation of a number of small regional railroads in eastern Pennsylvania. Routes to the west immediately began to be surveyed, and new track was laid beginning the very next year. With the discovery of massive oil fields in Pennsylvania, along with exploding mining and steel production, and the emergence of Chicago as a new industrial powerhouse, by 1882, the Pennsylvania Railroad was by far the largest railroad in the world in terms of traffic and revenue. The railroad would go on to make a profit and pay dividends for 100 consecutive years until 1946. Although expansive, the Pennsylvania's bread and butter consisted largely of 3 routes: an East Coast corridor connecting Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City, a 4-track main line connecting the East Coast corridor to Chicago through Pittsburgh, and a 2-track main line connecting the East Coast through Pittsburgh and Columbus, Ohio, to St. Louis, Missouri. Now, the Pennsylvania Railroad is often confused with the Pennsylvania Company, which was formed in 1870, about a quarter of a century after the railroad was founded. The Pennsylvania Company was an investment and holding company, and while they owned the Pennsy, they were also involved in many other investment ventures. In a little over a decade, the Pennsylvania Company had become the world's largest transportation company and the largest corporation the world had seen up to that date. In fact, over its history, the Pennsylvania Company absorbed, merged, indirectly owned, or perpetually leased over 800 railroads covering over 30 states as far west as Oklahoma, as well as being involved in real estate, mining, insurance, and a whole host of other interests. During the early 1900s, the Pennsylvania Railroad continued to upgrade and modernize. In 1925, a new Chicago Union Station was opened, built mainly for and by the Pennsylvania Railroad in conjunction with 4 other railroads to compete more effectively for rail passenger traffic. So great was the expansion of business from Chicago that this was the 3rd rebuild of the Union Station on that same site to accommodate the growing demand and keep the Broadway limited on schedule. In the late 1920s to the mid-1930s, the Pennsylvania finished electrifying its entire East Coast corridor, and the mighty GG1s ruled the coast. Then in 1937, Pennsy acquired its very first diesel locomotive, an SW Switcher engine from the Electromotive Corporation. And almost exactly 30 years later to the day, in 1957, the last steam locomotives were retired from regular service. But over the 40 years prior, the Pennsy had the widest variety of steam, electric, and diesel power of any railroad, anywhere, anytime. From the 1920s through the 1950s, the Pennsylvania Railroad was indeed the standard railroad of the world. And on the 9-level high layout, Pennsy trains will be seen arriving and departing from St. Louis. If you've just come to and are wondering what just happened, then like and subscribe, because listening to me rattle on is better than being comatose, I think. Till next time, keep your train on the tracks, and I'll see you round the next bend. Take care now. T4 out.